Stand and face the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And who is to do the introductions? I was told that somebody would do that.
Our chief is gone right now. She's at another meeting, Pam Brown. She's amazing. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have start with Cynthia. And if you would stand and tell what you're running for and tell us where you're from.
I'm Cynthia Davis, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. I live in O'Fallon, Missouri. I probably drove further than anybody else to get here tonight, but it's a thrill to be with you.
Good evening. My name is Greg Stratman. I'm running for state representative, 62nd District. I'm from Vienna, and it's a pleasure being here too.
I'm Colin Long, and I'm from Waynesville, Missouri, and I want to thank you all for coming out tonight and listen to hear us speak. I appreciate you coming out.
I'm Rick Lissiby, and I'm running for sheriff of Phelps County, and I live right here in Rolla, just outside of Rolla, about 3 miles.
I'm Bud Dean, running for Associate Commissioner in District 2. I've served as your District Commissioner. I'm in my 12th year. I live just southeast of Rolla on Highway 72. Been there for all my life.
Hi, I'm Tom Hurst. I'm running for the 62nd House of Representatives. I live in the big town of Meada. And if you wonder where Meada is, normally I'd say if you get lost, that's where you end up. But it's about 20 miles south of Jeff City. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening.
Hi, I'm Bill Hickel. I'm your Associate Circuit Judge for Phelps County. I'm running for Circuit Judge. I'm from here in Rolla. Okay, thanks for coming tonight.
My name's Ron Dishman. I'm from Rolla, Missouri. I'm running for Phelps County Sheriff. Thanks everybody for being here.
My name's Gary Hicks. I'm running for Phelps County District 2 Commissioner. I'm from right here in Rolla, Missouri.
Good evening. My name is Rick Van Even. I'm the Libertarian candidate for U.S. Representative from the Missouri 8th Congressional District, and I'm from Chapman, Missouri.
Hello, it's a privilege to be here this evening. My name is Jack Russian. I'm the Democratic candidate for the 8th Congressional District. I live in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, which is about 40 miles north of the Arkansas border.
Let's give them a hand. Thank you so much.
And a couple of administrative things or housekeeping things for the audience. The restrooms are through the kitchenette, and there's another little room that you go through the kitchenette, and the restrooms are in there. If you would please refrain from applause, because we are going to videotape this, and that will help us to keep this moving. To begin with, we'll have each of the candidates give a 2-minute introduction, and I will have a question that you kind of address that to. At 30 seconds, you will get a signal from our timekeeper, and there will be a little yellow sign that he'll be right there in front of you. When your time is up, he will give you the red side of that. Like I say, the initial question will be for 2 minutes. All the other questions will be for 90 seconds. And again, we'll give you the signals. And we will pretty much do this, except initially we'll do most of the questions by the position that you're running for, which means that we'll do that, so the others have to just kind of wait until their place comes. With that, I believe that's all we have to do. We will take questions from the audience. In a few minutes, a young man will go and collect your questions. Those will be prioritized and handed to me to read. And we'll do that as time allows at the end of our time. So we'll have to kind of gauge that as we go along. With that, we'll begin, and we'll just start on the end. And here's my question that we'd like you to address. Tell us what your qualifications are.
Are you wanting us to use this?
No.
We're just going to project. You get the mic, and we just get our raw
That's
voice.
right.
Okay, when you're the first one, you got to ask questions.
Understand?
Okay, now please continue with your question.
Tell us what your qualifications are for this position and why you are running.
Okay, I'm Cynthia Davis, and I bring to you tonight my Lock and Smith Award for being the most constitutional legislator in the state of Missouri. And you know what's great about this is there are opportunities here like we've never had before. I live in O'Fallon, and my husband and I opened up a Christian bookstore almost 24 years ago. And we weren't open very long when our city government made a decision that was adverse to businesses. So I said, you know what? I get the mic after all? Yay! Can we start over? Yeah. You told me I get no mic. Okay. I'm so glad you can hear me now.
Give her a minute.
I'm Cynthia Davis. I live in O'Fallon, Missouri. My husband and I opened up Back to Basics Christian Bookstore almost 24 years ago. The city government made a really bad decision that hurt the businesses. So it brought us together, just like the Tea Party. It brought us all together. And we came together and said, what are we going to do to keep government from hurting us worse? And they appointed me to be in charge of the legislative committee, and what that meant is, I said, what do? They said, go to the city government meetings and tell us what they're doing to ruin our lives next. So I thought, I can do that. And you know what? After a solid year, I said, we can't change city government until we change the people in those seats. And that's when somebody across the room said, then why don't you run? And I did, and I got elected to 5 terms in city government. And then while I was in city government, I realized the real problem is with the state government. So I got elected to 4 terms in the state government, and I realized the real problem is the national government. But you know what? Term limits in Missouri means you just have to go bless the world somewhere else. And that's what I'm doing tonight. I'm coming to Rolla to bless you with a choice on the ballot. So the quickest way to summarize it, I'm the only candidate who's been endorsed by Missouri Right to Life, the Veterans Commission, and the Lock and Smith, named after John Locke and Adam Smith, and I won the Fund of Agriculture Award. But the main point is, when we're constitutional, you can trust that I will be the designated driver in the room full of drunks. What we're going to do is good, you're going to love it, we're going to be accountable, and you know what? Running on the Constitution Party allows me to be the one to hold them all accountable. I don't have a vested interest to try and make my party look good. I have a vested interest in siding with the taxpayers, and it's always been that way in the past, and I've got a point to prove it, and the main thing is for you to know that you're going to have a true champion in your government. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Greg Strotman, running for state representative. There is a difference I need to bring out. I'm not the county commissioner, and Strotman's a school board member. They call themselves Stratman. We're Strotman in Vienna. But anyway, there is a difference there. I'm running for state representative because there's a need for a different approach to state government. Our rural towns are in decay. Our urban neighborhoods are in decay. Economic development is not being addressed, and jobs are not being created. And I have the experience as a Bachelor of Science in Political Science, have served 12 years on the Vienna City Council, elected. I have held voluntary positions as president of a statewide fraternal group, 42,000 members. I have served as a lobbyist, a healthcare lobbyist. I have served as an advocate for mentally development persons. And I start saying How can we do things, and your idea is good, your idea is good, let's bring these ideas together and make a difference. I am running because of my kids and my grandkids. I'm not sure what the future is going to bring. But until we work together and listen, there's issues in Jeff City that we need to address. Our schools, I-44, I-70. There's things, DNR. These are issues that we're not listening to each other. And that's what I'm hoping to bring as a state representative. So thank you.
Good evening. Again, I'm Judge Colin Long, and I'm running for Circuit Judge. I'm currently the Associate Circuit Judge in Pulaski County, and I am running for Judge Story's position, who's retiring at the end of the year. When Judge Story retires, I will be the third longest serving judge in the circuit. I want to tell you why I want to be your next circuit judge. I want to bring my wide range of experience and leadership in the courtroom to you as your next circuit judge. Let me talk to you a little bit about my experience. I've heard complex civil cases, and I've heard murder cases. I've been recognized by the Missouri Supreme Court for handling difficult cases throughout the county, or throughout the state, not only throughout the county. It's nice every once in a while, and I've gotten calls from the Supreme Court saying, Judge Long, there's folks shooting at each other in another county. We need you. Can you go down and hear this case immediately? Or Judge Long, there's a case where we think a judge may get sued in this case. We know that you will do it right. Will you go hear that case? I want to bring that to you as your next circuit judge. Prior to becoming a judge, associate circuit judge, I was in private law practice. I had a practice here in Rolla, most predominantly in Waynesville. I handled a wide range of cases. I represented the local banks, local school systems, a lot of our local businesses, but most importantly, I handled cases for folks just like you and me who needed a little guidance through the court system. Let me talk to you about what else I want to bring to this, or to your circuit. I want to improve the speed of cases as they go through the court system. I currently have the best time standards in my division throughout the circuit. I want to bring that in circuit-wide. Additionally, I want to find ways to save tax dollars and also provide a quality criminal justice system to the rest of the circuit. What we've done in Pulaski County is we've started a drug court, which currently costs $2,500 per participant. They're monitored, they're drug tested, they have to get employment, and it also costs less than incarcerating. I've got some ideas I'll share with you later, but again, thank you for letting me be here. Thank you for coming out and listening to you, and I'll talk to you later.
I don't think I need a microphone as much as I've taught over the years, but we'll hold it up here anyway. I'm Rick Listenby, and I'm the current sheriff of Phelps County. I was elected in 2008 as sheriff, and I'll tell you something, it's been a pleasure to serve you, Phelps County. As sheriff, we came a long way. I'd like to stand up here and say it's all about Rick. It wasn't. We've got some excellent people in that department. We've got 60 employees. We're running about 140, 150 prisoners. After yesterday, we're up a little bit more. You ready? And we've done that now for 4 years. We've made these roundups for 4 years. We've put over 470 drug dealers in jail. You know, again, it's not about me. It's about Rolla Police Department, the Missouri State Highway Patrol. It's about the Drug Task Force. It's about all of us, St. James PD. Anybody and everybody that wants to be a part of it is a part of it. And I'm really glad to be aboard of this. You know, I came from a long history of law enforcement. I retired as a Missouri State Trooper. I was sergeant over Marys County and Phelps County. We had a lot of pride in that organization. I still do. Phelps County's gained that. I'm extremely proud of the people that we have. And we're going to continue to do this. If you'll allow me the next 4 years, we're going to grow. You know, we're going to be there for you. I have an open door policy. I'm proud. You walk in that door, I'll give you a tour. I'll let you go anywhere you want. We'll take you there. You know, I'm not putting down the past. I'm not. They brought it a long ways. The sheriffs before. You know, it's just time that we stepped up and we continue the progress, okay? And that's what I'm doing. You know, when it gets to the point in time where Rick can't do that, then it's time for Rick to step aside. But I think we brought a lot to the table. And thank you, and I appreciate you coming.
probably don't need this either. I'm used to talking loud. My wife told me when I got here, she said, use your inside voice. When I'm talking to the cows, I got to talk loud. Anyway, I'm Bud Dean. I've served as your county commissioner. I was elected in 2000, took office 2001, January 1, or when it was sworn in then. Been there ever since. I look at my service to this county. They wanted me to give the qualifications. I started out as a bookkeeper for the Rolla Farms Exchange, and after that I went to the Rolla Utilities as auditor, and was there for several years. And then we ended up owning a tax office. We worked there in the tax office, and so I've been mixed up with accounting most of my life, which helps me in the county commission situation. Also, I've farmed all my life and operated equipment, and you learn a lot there when you're farming and try to make a grade doing that. Beyond that, have served in several organizations, including the Rolla Lions Club, chairman of my church boards, and that type of stuff. Why am I running? One reason I'm running, I'm proud of Phelps County. And I've been proud of it ever since I've been, especially in office, but before I was in office. We have a great team here and you're very fortunate here in Phelps County to have the office holders that you have. No matter whether they got an R after their name or a D after their name, as soon as they're elected to office, and as soon as I'm elected to office, I'm no longer a Democrat or Republican, an independent or whatever it is. I'm that office holder, and I represent everybody, all of you. So if you come into the commissioner's office, you won't hear a single one of the commissioners say, hey, you know, did you vote for me last time, or was this guy a Republican or Democrat? That's not even asked when they come in the door. What we do is take care of the service and serve the community. We're stewards of your money. It's not our money. The tax money that comes in sales taxes and property taxes that comes through our county, we run about a $15 million budget. And the money that comes in is yours. And we're entrusted by you to get the best we can get from every dollar we do spend. I appreciate getting served, and I ask for your vote.
Good evening. I'm Tom Hurst. I'm running for representative in the 62nd District. A little bit about myself. I actually live on the same farm I grew up on. It's a century farm. It's been in my family for over 100 years. Got my education. I went to Fatima High School in West Bay, Missouri. Got my college degree at MU in accounting. Since that time, I have my own accounting firm. This year we did a little over 800 tax returns. I also farm as well, cattle. So when you said that, it kind of made me feel right at home. We have a livestock operation. I'm an auctioneer in Cuba, Missouri, and Eldon, Missouri. We also have a convenience store that we've operated for the last 18 years, and we have some rental property as well. Did I leave anything out, huh? All right, she's kind of my memory sometimes. But one of the reasons why I'm running, like I have a beautiful wife, beautiful children, and wonderful children. It's one of those things, all the things I've done in my life, it's given me a diverse background. But as you go through life and you use that background and the people you experience every day in those businesses, what you see is there's a lot of great people in this area. People that, they're hard workers, they're trustworthy, they're honest, they're good, hard-working people that would like to see somebody work for them. I've been working half my life in businesses. Growing up on a farm, naturally you know that you work your whole life. But it's one of those things that I've been blessed in my life. I've had a lot of opportunities. I was able to take care of those opportunities. But there's other opportunities out there that a lot of people are not able to capitalize on, you might say, because of the restrictions with government. In fact, at one time I was going to start a business. Whenever we went through the details and I found out with DNR and EPA and all the stipulations that went along with it, we had to set it by the wayside. There was jobs, there was a business that did not form because it could not because of the regulations. And so it's time for somebody, and I want to be a part of that, to represent you in the Capitol. And with that, what we'd like to do is we don't need extra taxes, we just need to spend our money wiser, just like you would if you have a budget in your own business. We need to take care of the people that we work for, and we need to kind of keep the government out of people's lives versus having them put their thumb on you and hold you down. My number's in the phone book. I live there at Meta. It's a small town, but there is a phone book for them. Feel free to call me anytime. My time is up, and I appreciate any questions. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Bill Hickle. What a great audience that we have here tonight. This is especially with the Vice President today. So it's good to see you. Again, I am your Phelps County Associate Circuit Judge. I'm running for Circuit Judge. Missouri is divided up into judicial circuits. We're in the 25th Circuit. I'm running for that position. Debbie, my wife, is over here. Raise your hand. Thank you. We've been married for 29 years. We've been blessed with 5 children. We've had the great opportunity to raise all of our children right here in this area. What a privilege that's been. I want you to know how grateful that I am that you've allowed me to serve as your judge over the years. I'm now serving my 16th year as judge in one capacity or the other. I have handled tens of thousands of cases as your judge at this point. I also had the great opportunity to work as a lawyer for 27 years, representing families and small businesses all over Phelps County and the surrounding counties. So what I want to share with you briefly is just 3 things about my approach to my work as your judge. First of all, I want you to know how seriously I take the job. Because what I've learned over the years is that as a judge, you have a direct impact on the lives of the folks that are here in your courtroom. So many of the people that are here in your courtroom are at a fork in their lives, fork in the road of their lives. I work with children, juveniles, folks that are charged with a crime, and quite often the decision that you make will affect that person literally for the rest of their lives. And so I do my very best to make sure that every decision that I make is fair and impartial and in strict accordance with the law. Second, I want you to know that over the years, when I had a chance to appear in other courtrooms or in front of other judges, I always appreciated the judge that treated everyone in their courtroom, regardless of why they were there, with dignity and respect. And I've done my very best to do just that. No matter why you're in my courtroom, you can count on the fact that I'm going to do my best to treat you with dignity and respect. I might treat you firmly because you might deserve to be treated firmly, but I won't treat you with dignity and respect. And then lastly, every decision that I make, I do my best to uphold and honor our Constitution. Folks are probably talking about it on TV at home right now. This is a critical time in the history of our nation, and now more than ever, we need to make sure that we honor and respect the privileges and rights that are guaranteed to us by our founding fathers in the Constitution. And I try to do that every day when I'm in court. Thank you, folks, so much.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ron Dishling. I'm proud to be the Republican candidate for the Phelps County Sheriff. My wife Dee, as you can tell, I'm not a career politician, but I've lost touch with the everyday needs and concerns of the Phelps County citizens. I kind of like to make the department a more reactive department. I feel that you see them running around, they're a good department, but they just don't, they're running call to call. I mean, they're handling calls as they come in, but they need to go out and try to stop some of this drugs and stuff before they happen. I'm currently a police officer with the Doolittle Police Department, and that's pretty much it.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Gary Hicks. I'm running for Phelps County Commission, District 2. I'd like to bring the experience I've garnered as a city councilman. I've been on the Rolla City Council now for 8 years. I've been a member of several of the committees, including the Finance and Audit Committee. We run a budget of about $25 to $30 million a year at the city. I'm intimately involved in all the budgeting process, and I'd like to bring that. I think that's plenty of qualifications to help the county run their budget. I'd like to say the reason that I'm running is that I was diagnosed with prostate cancer about 3 years ago and went through the procedure to have that taken care of. And during that time I thought, can I leave something, some sort of legacy? And I'm thinking, yeah, I probably can. I don't have none. But I do like people, and I do like to work with people. And over the years I've worked with a lot of different folks, and I feel like I can bring them into the commissioner's office. I plan to be a full-time commissioner. I won't just be a part-time commissioner. They're paid a very handsome wage, in case you wondered. And I think that it's a full-time wage. I plan on devoting all my time and my energies into being a commissioner. I feel like that the commission can be much more active in their role in promoting economic development in our county. I think there's a good deal of lackluster performance in that area. So I appreciate this opportunity to address this great audience and hope that you can support me on November 6th.
My name is Rick Van Dieven. I am a paper maker from Scott County, Missouri. I'm also a libertarian. This is my second run for this office. I like to say that I'm running against Congress because I don't think any honorable person would actually want to be part of that den. I'm a libertarian. A lot of people want to know what a libertarian is. A libertarian is somebody that believes that everybody has the right to live their life however they want, so long as they don't harm other people. We also believe that no person or group of people has the right to initiate force against another person or another group of people. I was asked what my qualification is. I only have one qualification, and that's that my generation is the one generation that's going to have to start paying for this mess that we find ourselves in. I didn't get into politics. Politics got into me. A few weeks ago, a friend of mine asked me, said, "Are you freer now than what you were 4 years ago?" And I got to thinking about that, and I thought to myself, 4 years ago, my children had never known their homeland to not be in a state of war. 4 years ago, I couldn't travel via commercial air without being treated like a criminal. 4 years ago, a sizable portion of my paycheck was confiscated to support the wealthiest demographic in the history of the world through the Social Security program. 4 years ago, agents of this nation's executive office detained and tortured terror suspects without due process. 4 years ago, I could be arrested and thrown into the world's largest prison population for ingesting a plant banned by the federal government. 4 years ago, the Federal Reserve printed copious amounts of fiat currency to maintain an economy built on debt. 4 years ago, Congress rewarded their friends in certain financial, business, and manufacturing industries through legislative crony capitalism. Are these the trademarks of a free society?
No.
I only have 3 goals. End the wars, and by the wars, I mean the war on terror, which has introduced us to the Patriot Act, which is eroding our civil liberties. I want to end the war on drugs. I noticed a couple of the candidates for sheriff were talking about the revolving door in the war on drugs. The reason that door is revolving is because we failed. The war on drugs is a complete failure. I will end the Federal Reserve, and I will end crony capitalism. Thank you.
Well, I'm Jack Russian, I'm from Poplar Bluff, Missouri. I'm a practicing chiropractor, been in practice for 31 years. For 18 of those years, I served with the Missouri State Chiropractic Association at various levels. I was legislative chairman twice. I helped write laws. I was in Jefferson City and testified pro and against bills. And I've also been to Washington several times for Medicare. So I have a lot of experience with that. Then I've also been on the Board of Examiners for 9 years, been under 3 governors. Currently, I'm the president of the Board of Examiners. That's given me a lot of experience in regulatory rules and regulations, some of which I think we need, some of which we don't need. I live in Poplar Bluff. I have a wife. I have a son who's a senior at Seymour University. I have a daughter senior in high school. I have 3 dogs and 2 cats. I'm a pet lover. The issue at hand, with the reason why I'm running, is my opponent has been in Congress since '96, which is not a bad thing. But the fact is, Paul Ryan's been in since '98. They were front row and center during the Bush years, and they voted for much of the spending that he had. And that led us from a surplus when Bush took office to an immense deficit. Now, I believe in pay-as-you-go. I've done that in my life. Many of the things that I purchased for my office, I paid cash for, and those things I had to finance, I did. We put things on a wish list and waited until we had enough money we could purchase it, because I don't like to pay money for interest. At the same time, I believe that we have to look at what our country needs and what the people need. And the way I look at it is from the standpoint of what I just said about the expenditures we had in the Iraq and Afghan war and putting the Medicare on a revolving charge card. That wasn't good for our country. And that's not something I would have stood for. So those are the things that I'm interested in. Those are the things that I want to try to interject into the Congress. And if I have the opportunity, I will do so. Look forward to being here and answering your questions tonight. Thank you very much.
On the table in the back that we would like you to put those questions on from the audience. So if you would like to get those, please do that. And in a few minutes, I'll mention the time we're going to collect those, and then we'll prioritize those, and I'll try to read as many as I can as time allows. I have one more question to follow up for everybody, and if you could, candidates, please answer this in as close to an answer such as for or against as you can, or at least a one-liner if possible. And that is, and we'll begin on this end this time, and the question is, since all elected officials swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, what is your opinion of Missouri's right to carry law?
I support the right to carry law. I believe that if citizens go through the education and have documentation that's set up that they're sound citizens and know to act responsibly, then we should have right to carry. So I support that.
I don't believe that a sovereign individual has to ask the government for the right to defend themselves.
Amen.
I wholeheartedly support the right of individuals to carry firearms.
I support the right to carry also.
My job is difficult because I'm governed by rules of judicial ethics that tell us that we're not supposed to comment on issues that might come before the court. I will tell you that I'm an NRA member. I'm not going to answer the question directly. I'm sorry, I have to come.
Follow that. I am endorsed by the NRA as an AQ, which is the highest rating from the NRA. Whenever Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, the reason they did not land on the shores is because it said the United States had the biggest army in the world. They knew there would be a gun behind every tree, and it stopped foreigners from coming in. People that want to get guns illegally will get those regardless of the law. I think we should be able to carry them.
I also support that, and I think that we have the right to bear arms in this country, always have had that right. We don't want to give that right up. It's just an inalienable right that was done in the Bill of Rights, Second Amendment.
Well, Judge, I can beat it. I'm an instructor for concealed carry.
Bill's right. Judges can't comment about the political topics of the day because it's cases that may come before them. But I can tell you that I'm anxiously awaiting deer season like everybody else.
Yes, I too support the right to carry. I too have been awarded the AQ rating by the NRA. And my family, deer hunters, we're anxious waiting deer season.
Okay, this is my concealed weapon permit. And when I was in the legislature, I not only voted to make this happen, but I filed the Firearms Freedom Act.
And if we could now pass the microphone down to Mr. Dean, because now we're going to get into the position-specific questions. And what I intend to do, and I'll remind you that these are 90-second answers. And I will try to alternate, and that way nobody has any more time to think about the question that you're going to get than the others, so we'll try to alternate those. So the first question is, the Missouri Court of Appeals, Eastern District, ruled on September 18th that the city of Warrenton could require Warren County to comply with its building codes and building permit requirements when they built the county administration facility within the city. In other words, the court maintained the sovereignty of the city of Warrenton within its own boundaries. An article in the Rolla Daily News stated that Phelps County is currently not building anything within the city limits. By extension, do you think this ruling could, in the future, imply that the county could assert its sovereignty over the state or federal government, and why or why not?
Well, we'll have to follow the law, so if that turns out to be held up in the law of the Supreme Court, then if we build something in the city, we'll do it per code. I'll put it to you that way, because it wouldn't be right not to. My question comes to me then, how does it, that's county government, what do they do about all of the federal buildings we got built, and all of the state buildings that are built here in the Phelps County or any other county? Do they come under that code also? The Supreme Court has not talked to us about that. And that concerns me, and I have some problems with the Supreme Court and the judicial system anyway on some other issues, but My point is that if it is law, then we will follow the law.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I've been at odds with our codes enforcement in Rolla on many occasions. We now have a pretty good codes enforcement. I don't know if that really has anything to do with the question, but the fact of the matter is, if the Supreme Court rules that other political subdivisions can be forced into cooperating with codes enforcement and having permits and everything, I'm sure that the county will be liable to do that. I'm absolutely sure they will. And I think that codes enforcement is a tough thing. We in the city of Rolla have great codes enforcement, and I'm sure that we would cooperate immensely with any other political subdivisions that may be building in our community. So, you know, I think codes are important, and if the courts say that they can be enforced on the other political subdivisions, then we will do that.
Okay, thank you. Next question will come to you. Name some ways the county commission could increase transparency to the citizens of Phelps County.
I've been attending some of the meetings here recently, and I don't know that they need to be any more transparent. They have people that come in and out of there minute to minute, and they address their concerns quite professionally, it seems like. I made a joke one day. I said, all they need is cornbread there, and it could be like hee-haw. But they really do seem to enjoy their jobs. And the people that come in there, I think, are always treated with respect. I don't know that there needs to be any more transparency. I'm sure that their books are always open for any type of inspection by the public. So I think they do a good job.
And one quick follow-up, and it can be a yes or no, hopefully. Would you be willing to see that commission meetings, meeting agendas, and minutes would be posted online and made available to the Rolla News?
Oh, I wouldn't have any problem at all with that. And I don't know that if the commissioners now have any problem with that. The agenda is pretty fluid. Like I say, people come and go all day long. The agenda is posted right downstairs in the courthouse, right next to the room. So anybody's welcome to see that. I don't know if it's on the net or anything like that. But I think they do a fine job of being transparent and inviting the public to come in. And I wouldn't change that a bit. I encourage public participation in all forms of government.
Thank you, Gary. All of our meetings are completely 100% open. Anybody can walk through the door anytime they want. There's very few closed sessions in the commission, and I'm mostly opposed to most of those. We don't need those. Because if it's in a closed session, then I have to defend it. It's an open session. Heck, if they're in the record, and everybody defends it themselves. The agenda by law needs to be posted 24 hours. That's all public entities, no matter whether it's a county commission or any other city council board, school board, whatever. The agenda needs to be posted 24 hours in advance. Now, there's going to be some things come up in the county commission and all the others that we don't plan on, because we don't know who's going to walk through the door and have a question or have an issue. And it's our responsibility to hear those issues. The fact of the matter is, when you get on the commission, you find out that you hear a lot of issues you cannot do a darn thing about. You don't have any, but they come there because the commission is sitting there, and the commission is the administrative body of the county, and that way it can be heard there. And the news media covers every one of our meetings. They're there full time at every meeting. RD's here tonight, but Paul handles our meetings now. And if they are not there, then the minutes are there, and the minutes are open to anyone. The minutes of every meeting, the county clerk has all the minutes. She's responsible for the records of the county court, and the minutes are available to anyone or any contract or any document that goes through there is public record. And it's going to stay public record. It belongs to the public.
Okay, thank you. Hold on to that, because the next question will be yours. And at any time, feel free to ask me to repeat the question if you need me to. This is a question, and then I have some sort of follow-ups that I'll ask you before you hand off the mic. Phelps County recently applied for hazard mitigation funds to replace some low water crossings in the county. The work will have to meet national flood insurance requirements. What other components of the expenses for these projects will be more expensive because of federal mandates?
And I think the prevailing wage has to be paid by any entity that uses taxpayers' money. That's the law. We don't have any choice. So right now, we're in the St. Louis prevailing wage. So, and there was some determination by the state legislature to do a more localized prevailing wage procedure, and I don't know whether that ever got passed, but there's no choice. We have to use prevailing wage. City has to use prevailing wage. Everybody, schools, everybody that builds anything. Now, the mitigation funds, probably 9 to 10 out of 10, we won't get any of them. That's my opinion, because there's only $700,000 in the state of Missouri. The only reason they sent it to us was because there were some counties that did not use the mitigation funds that they have. And we went through some of that today. It has to be turned in by tomorrow, Friday. And the issues that come there is how long was each road closed? What was there any injuries at that road or at that time? And when would the flood happen? And how long did the flood last? And that type of stuff. So we turn in what we can on it, but I wouldn't hold my hat on getting very much of it. There's only $700,000 in the whole state. The mitigation, we did get some of that back at the time. We did get some roads fixed, and I will tell you that we got our final payment from the 3-year-ago flood. That it took 3 years for FEMA. It's FEMA money. We haven't got any FEMA money at all. That comes through the state. The money we get comes through FEMA, but it's federal money. And the state owes us probably $125,000 or something on those, and we'll probably never see it. So the state doesn't have the money, so that's where we're at. What's the follow-up?
Okay, thank you. The follow-ups, and these can be true or false. By accepting funds for hazard mitigation, Phelps County is obligated to comply with FEMA regulations forever in order to get a small and temporary benefit.
Well, that's probably true, but if you get anything from the federal government, you're going to have to listen to their regulations. So that's the reason that some things we don't apply for.
Okay, the only way to refuse compliance with federal hazard mitigation standards in the future is to repay all of the FEMA money the county has received in the past.
No.
Okay. By accepting these funds, the right of local self-government is signed away to a federal bureaucracy.
No, we still operate it, and it's the counties. We have to go about getting the contractor and that type of stuff. There is rules and regs that you have to go through to do that, but it's still local control to build it. And we decide we don't want to do it, we don't do it.
You need to repeat that. Okay. The first question, Phelps County recently applied for hazard mitigation funds to replace some low water crossings in the county. The work will have to meet national flood insurance requirements. Does this mean that federal prevailing wages will need to be paid? And what other components of the expenses for these projects will be more expensive because of federal land use?
Anytime you accept federal money, there's going to be some kind of strings attached. Federal alluded to that. So, of course, prevailing wage is necessary. And the engineering on these bridges are probably quite a bit higher than what it normally would be if Bud or I, either one, were just going out to build this bridge. We probably wouldn't have to have all the engineering and all the what I call extraneous expenses that are part of the federal funding. And I understand that there's always damages done during floods and things like that. One of my concerns is why we have so many bridges that are susceptible to flooding and are closed and that are not up to specifications so that school buses can cross and problems like that. So I think it goes beyond how the funding is accomplished. It's how the money is being spent on our roads and bridges.
All the follow-ups, true or false, by accepting funds for hazard mitigation, Phelps County is obligated to comply with FEMA regulations forever in order to get a small and temporary benefit?
I really can't answer that. I'm not up to speak on that.
Okay. The only way to refuse compliance with federal hazard mitigation standards in the future is to repay all of the FEMA money the county has received in the past?
Once again, I'll claim ignorance.
Okay. And by accepting these funds, the right of local self-government is signed away to a federal bureaucracy?
I don't believe that. Like I say, there's always some strings attached, but I don't think we're giving up our sovereignty at all when we accept some government funding from the feds. After all, we paid it in. Folks, it's not coming from somebody else, it's coming from us.
Okay, and the next question will be back to you. So, the over-the-road truckers are inflicting wear and tear on our secondary roads. An example would be the heavy truck usage County Road 2020 between exit 189 and Highway 63. There is a petition before the Commission, the City of Rolla, and MoDOT to connect the north outer road west of Love's Truck Stop to County Road 2000. What stage is this project in now, and is a roundabout planned for the highway near Love's? Please tell the audience what you know about this issue.
I was involved in the 2020 plan, the major thoroughfare plan, when it was renewed at the city. I expressly got that link put into the 2020 major thoroughfare plan because I believe that access from 63 to the highway was incredibly important for the development and usage of our industrial park there, High Point. And I didn't know that there was a petition, but that's a little new to me. I know that it's possible. I know that we're working on that. I know that have been working with the county and state as well to accomplish that link. That would open up about 200 acres for development up there in Northline. I'd like to see that annexed into the city. And it would be a great place to develop. As far as the roundabout goes, we had some plans for that. We couldn't get the right-of-way secured, and we decided to spend some of those funds on improving the traffic lights and the signals there at the B Highway overpass, and widening some of the rampage.
Would you repeat the question?
The over-the-road truckers are inflicting wear and tear on our secondary roads. An example would be the heavy trucks using County Road 2020 between exit 189 and Highway 63. There is a petition before the Commission, the City of Rolla, and MoDOT to connect the north outer road west of Love's Truck Stop to County Road 2000. What stage is this project in now, and is a roundabout planned for the highway near Love's? Tell us what you know about this.
Okay, there is no petition that I know about. There is a lot of concern, and there's a lot of interest in getting that done. We would like to see it done in the county very much, and it would have to be a cooperative effort between the state, and there's some work being done on that between the state and the city and the county. Most of the right-of-way would be on state highway right-of-way. Their right-of-way goes out far enough to put most of that road on it. And it's something that's sorely needed to relieve traffic, because I saw some trailer trucks going through the other day that come through there, and what they do, they found out if they stop at Love's Truck Stop, then if they're going up 63 North, they can go through there, and they do a lot of damage to the road. The fact of the matter is, an engineer for the MoDOT told me one time that a bridge, for instance, would be almost the same thing on roads. One truck crossing a bridge will do as much damage as 70,000 automobiles. Because that truck is so much heavier than when it's back going across that road. Roundabout, Gary can answer that a lot better than I can. That's a city project. County was not into that at all. That's between the city and the state. And the way I understood it, there is an issue with getting the property good. The owner of Love's Truck Stop does not want to give up the property, does not want a roundabout, so it's probably not going to happen.
It ain't more around.
Well, how do you like that one down Forum Drive?
Don't like it. If you would hand the mic next to you, we'll begin with a series of questions for the candidates for Cheryl. First question, Mr. Lisby. The Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officer Association, in conjunction with the Ozark Property Rights Congress, sent you a survey in April, the subject of which was highlighting the sheriff's oath to the U.S. Constitution versus federal law enforcement activities within the county. The completed survey was not received back from either of you, so the first question is why? Secondly, do you feel that if elected, you'll be the highest law enforcement authority in Phelps County, and if not, why not?
Well, I don't recall the survey, turned it back, I don't know what you mean by we, but I didn't see it. If I had saw it, I would have probably addressed it. As far as the sheriff, it's always been that way. I've got people that come in and ask me, and they recognize the sheriff as being an elected official and not an appointed or a state highway patrol. And that wasn't true. But there's a lot of people out there that look at sheriff as being the law enforcement that they voted and they elected to be their representative. And I'm here for the people. I'm not here for the federal government. I'm here to protect the laws of the state of Missouri. And that includes anybody and everybody here. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm proud of who we are, and I'm proud of what we do.
Okay, thank you.
About the survey from
The Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, in conjunction with the Ozark Property Rights Congress, sent you a survey in April, the subject of which was highlighting the sheriff's oath to the U.S. Constitution versus federal law enforcement activities within the county. So the completed survey was not received back from either of you. First question is why? Secondly, do you feel that if elected, you'll be the highest law enforcement authority in Phelps County? And if not, why not?
well, that survey, I recall the survey, I filled it out and I did send it back. I don't know why they claimed they didn't get it. I did fill that out. And the sheriff, the highest ranking law enforcement, yeah, that's exactly true. I mean, kind of the way I look at it, it's the sheriff stands between the government and the people to keep away from tyranny. That's pretty much what I feel. I mean, that's all I...
Okay. Hang on to that because I'll come back to you for the second question. Describe what your method would be for following up on citizen calls.
Citizen calls, if I wasn't there and available to take them.
I'm assuming that the question is as it is.
Yeah, kind of. Well, my method would be to call people back. I don't know why they, if I'm not there and available to take them, I would be accessible to the people. I would most definitely call them back immediately as soon as I got word that they called.
Repeat the question.
Describe what your method would be for following up on citizen calls.
I do follow up on them. With 60 employees, we get a lot of calls. The Phelps County Sheriff Department's a busy department. I think our people do a great job of following up on their calls. If I get a call that somebody hasn't been contacted, then I'll follow up on it. I can't make those calls every time. That's why we have people. That's why I have 60 employees. And what I do is if I get a call from one of the citizens, I address the call and I return the call back to them and I make sure that it's followed up on. And as far as I'm concerned, our department is accountable, it's very accessible, and that's what we run on and that's what we're going to be. Thank you.
Next question will come back to you. The Missouri Auditor is required by law to compile the Criminal Activity Forfeiture Act, or we might call that CAFA, seizure reports submitted by the counties. The 2011 report showed that of the roughly $6.7 million in CAFA seizures statewide, Phelps County contributed $2 million. Nearly one-third seems more than expected for one of 114 counties in the state. At the time of the report, the final disposition of about one-fifth of this statewide total was pending, and the return to Phelps County was thus unclear. Would you be willing to report annually to the citizens of Phelps County the total amount secured through CAFA by the county, and would you consider reducing some part of the requested Sheriff's Department budget if it could be legally offset by these seizures?
You're talking about the asset forfeiture seizures. Yes. I don't have an issue with reporting. We're very high in asset forfeiture. We're very strong in it. And our asset forfeiture seizures, when I took office in 2009, was around $100,000, maybe more or less. Right now, we're probably well over $2 million. That's money belonging to the county. I try to utilize that money the best I can. The federal government's got fingers attached to it. They tell you what you can or what you can't spend it on. They've kind of relaxed that stranglehold. But for you, the people of Phelps County, understand that that money pays for the equipment, it pays for your training, it pays for just about anything and everything that you, the taxpayers, don't have to pay for. That's why when I took office, it's important for me to make sure that money's there for you. It's not my money. I'm not going to squander your money. And in fact, it's you know, you've got more, and hopefully when I leave this department, I leave this office, not in the next 4 years, that it will continue to be strong for you. And yes, and the county commissioners are great people, they're great to work with, and they know that I'll do anything and everything I possibly can to feed some of this money back in our budget. They know it. Thank you.
Yes, the Missouri auditor is required by law to compile the Criminal Activity Forfeiture Act, which caps seizure reports submitted by the counties. The 2011 report showed that in roughly $6.7 million in CAFA seizures statewide, Phelps County contributed $2 million. Nearly one-third seems more than expected for one of 114 counties in the state. At the time of the report, the final disposition of about one-fifth of this statewide total was pending, and the return to Phelps County was thus unclear. Would you be willing to report annually to the citizens of Phelps County the total amount secured through CAFA by the county, and would you consider reducing some part of the requested Sheriff's Department budget if it could be legally offset by these seizures?
Well, the Phelps County is a pretty big county. It's 674 square miles. It's got a major interstate running through it, so that would be why it's probably a good portion of the assets come back, because there's a lot of drugs running up and down this interstate, as we all know. As for reporting it, yeah, I would report it, no problems. I don't see why there would be an issue with reporting it every year, if that was the reason why. And what was the last part of the question?
Would you consider reducing some part of the requested Sheriff's Department budget if it could be legally offset by these seizures?
Well, I don't know about reducing the budget too awful much. It's, the budget's like $4.3 million. That includes the jail, so I mean, a lot of it you wouldn't want to offset, I wouldn't think. I just have to look at it on a case-by-case basis, because I don't know what the totals were either, so.
Last question, we'll come back to you. What is your opinion of the use of unmanned drones for surveillance? Please discuss this with reference to the Missouri Constitution, Article 1, Section 15, and U.S. Constitution, Article 4, which prohibit unreasonable searches and seizures.
Unmanned drones, I don't know anything about the unmanned drones. I've never even looked at anything about unmanned drones, so as for the unreasonable search and seizure, I would think you'd have to do a little research on that to try to see if it covered it. I don't know, to be truthfully.
What is your opinion of the use of unmanned drones for surveillance? Please discuss this with reference to the Missouri Constitution, Article 1, Section 15, and U.S. Constitution, Article 4, which prohibit unreasonable searches and seizures.
Well, I haven't seen any unmanned drones. I've had some of them in jail, probably seen a few of them, but I haven't. They may be talking about the camera systems over the intersections and whatnot, where they're not manned, they're just taking photographs of people and writing tickets on them. You know, I'm not for that. I'm not sure that there's a place in this county for this. You know, and I'm not sure that anybody would have that type of equipment to even utilize it here. But I'm not sure that I'd be interested in doing it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And if you would, please pass this on to, okay, let me see who gets this next. It would be Mr. Rolla. Yes. Before we start on this question, if the audience is ready with their questions, we'll start collecting those. So if you have those, please show them to Josh.
If you guys could you go ahead and pass them to the inside of the row? And that way.
Could I get the card? Where do they have
Continue. I do have some audience questions already, and I probably have some more coming on. So the first question, and this is for the county judge, 25th Circuit, Division 1. The first question is, how will you guarantee impartiality? Should a judge be influenced by life experience, political party, or religion?
Okay, if you'll repeat the question again on the beginning question.
How will you guarantee impartiality?
Well, judges are sworn to be impartial, and that's what you do. Is you don't let external influence influence your decision. You walk into the courtroom and you keep an open mind. You listen to the parties' grievances, or you make sure that you hear the case with an open mind. And that's sort of what judges, we all come from different backgrounds. Christian, you have a different background that you bring into the courtroom, but you can't let that outside influence your decision. We are there to follow the law. It's black and white. If you apply the facts to the law, we're neutral. We're like umpires. We're not there to make the law, but we apply the law. You can't let outside influences influence your decision. You're there to read the statute as it's written, not to inject your personal beliefs in what you think the statute should be. Judges are not legislators. We don't want to make the law. We are there to apply it.
There is an inherent and important difference in different branches of government. For example, my friend here is running for state representative, and what he would like to do is to make the law, to write the law. Folks that are in the executive branch of government, their job is to execute the laws, and both of those branches of government deals with large swaths of individuals. When you make a law, you're making a law that applies to a large category of people. That's at the you could call that at the macro level. Well, in the justice system, we're at the micro level. We're looking at that one person, that one child, that one family that comes into court. When we put aside all of our own predispositions of what we think the law should be, and instead we listen to the facts, and we apply the law as it exists, whether we like it or not, to the facts of that case, and then make a decision that is in strict accordance with the law. And if any judge does anything less than that, he's not worthy of that title, because that is the job description of a judge. It's not to legislate, it's not to make the law, it's to provide pure, fair, and impartial justice.
Okay. And the second question will stay with you. One example of a right secured in the Missouri Constitution's Bill of Rights, not included in the U.S. Bill of Rights, is the right to a jury trial in not only criminal cases, but in civil cases as well, according to Article 1, Section 22A. With that in mind, let's assume state and federal courts were addressing a constitutional question in different ways. Would you follow the lead of the state or the federal court? And can you tell us of anything else you, as a judge, might consider when dealing with such a disagreement?
Well, first of all, the federal Constitution, as interpreted by the United States Supreme Court, trumps all else. So if there is a specific pronouncement by the United States Supreme Court on a given issue that has to do with the United States Constitution that applies to a state case, we are bound first and foremost by our federal Constitution. Matter of fact, our state Constitution is only enacted because of the authority of the United States Constitution. Our state Constitution was actually fly-specked when we came into the Union to make sure that it was in accordance with the minimum standards that are set forth by the United States Constitution. So our law provides that our Constitution, as preserved by our founding fathers, trumps all else. So I think that answers your question. If not, I apologize.
That's right. The United States Constitution trumps the state Constitution. Now, the state Constitution can grant you more rights than the United States Constitution. But Judge Hickle and I are both associate circuit judges, and Bill, you can quote me on this. I like to think of us as the workhorses of the judicial system. We are in the trial court, and what we are bound to do is follow what the higher courts tell us that we have to do. And we have to follow that precedent. And that gives us some comfort that we have to follow that precedent. Again, we've talked about this. We may not like the law as it's written, but it's our job to follow the law as it's written. and we are to follow what the higher courts tell us to do. We're the workhorses. We're the guys that grind it out every day, that listen to the cases and make sure that everybody who steps in that courtroom gets a fair and impartial hearing. And we're bound to follow the federal Constitution, the United States Supreme Court, and then next comes the state state Constitution and the United States, or the state Supreme Court, and then the courts of appeals. That's who we look to for our guidance. But we're the workhorses. We're the guys in there doing it every day, putting in our hours, and making sure that everybody's rights are protected by the Constitution.
Okay, and the next question will stay with you. The Missouri Constitution, in Article 1, Section 2, states that Missouri citizens have the right to enjoy the gains of their own industry. What does this mean, and under what circumstances does the Missouri Constitution allow the government to restrict that right?
All right. When you get into specific articles, easy for me to say, specific articles of Constitution, our courts of appeals and our Supreme Court has already probably addressed that issue. It's determined by the precedent, and so we have to follow that. And your rights are guaranteed by the Constitution, and I'm not quite sure on where you're trying to tailor that question. Any more specifics on that, other than a general constitutional provision?
It is as it is.
Okay, all right, and that's the best that I can give you. Our courts have given us guidance on that. We're bound.
I'm probably not going to improve on that answer.
Does it sound like a broken record with Bill and I?
The interesting thing about the type of work that we do, there's certain parts of Missouri statute, federal constitutional law that are litigated all the time. We can tell you chapter and verse on Fourth Amendment, searches and seizures, because we address those types of issues all the time. There are other obscure issues, obscure parts of the Constitution that just never seem to get litigated. And that's one of them. I've never seen a case on the section of the Missouri Constitution that you just cited. There might be one out there, but I haven't read it. I doubt that Colin has. And so we're not going to be able to give you a whole lot of help on that. Sorry.
Okay. And the last question will stay with you. Do you think of any uses of private property that the Missouri Constitution does not permit the government to restrict? Can you think of any uses of private property that the Missouri Constitution does not permit the government to restrict?
Well, yeah, there are a lot of ways that we are allowed to use our property that I think that there's a very good argument that the Missouri Constitution, as well as the federal Constitution, would prohibit the state from restricting. I think that's the question that you asked. In other words, if your question is there constitutional limits to the federal government or the state government, or for that matter, city government, being able to regulate our use of the property, I think that the answer to that is yes. I know the answer to that is yes. I'm not going to go further than that for one important reason, and that is, again, the rule against a judge commenting on legal issues that might come later on before the judge. There's actually been litigation across the state here fairly recently, within the last few years, on eminent domain, the right to be free of regulation, and for inverse condemnation. Those are issues that right now are circulating around our court system, and I don't think that it's proper for a sitting judge, or standing judge, to comment on those issues, because there's a very real risk that that type of case might arise here in this area.
Again, here's the broken record. Judges are in a particularly bad position when you bring them into a political forum and you ask political questions, because there are just limits on what we can say and what we can't say. We can't talk about issues that may come up before us. And it's just like I talked about. Bill and I are sort of the workhorses of the judicial system, and an eminent domain case would be a particular type of case that we may hear. I'm sure there are circumstances in which the Constitution doesn't prohibit on how you use personal property or real property. It's just like a judge can't give an advisory opinion. You can't ask them a question and they can give you a theoretical opinion. They can tell you what they've done and how they've performed in the court system, but they just can't give you an answer on an issue that may be pending before. Like I talked about, judges are like umpires. We're just there to apply the law. on how we may rule on a case. It's sort of like the Cardinals-Nationals games, if I can bring that up right now. If I would have told you that the Nationals would have won today, it wouldn't make any sense to play the game. If the umpire told you how the game was going to end. And we just can't. And I apologize, but that's the code of ethics that we follow.
Okay, thank you. And if you would hand it right next to you there.
All right.
Our next set of questions will be for the state representative, District 62. And so we'll begin with you. What do you believe to be the role of state government?
The role of state government is to protect the Constitution of Missouri. And it is to be used to benefit the citizens on education, on our schools, our roads, and that is how I see the function of state government and education, to provide funding and oversight for those functions.
Okay.
As far as the role of government, I see it as the hand up, not the hand out. We're a community. Whenever there's things that individuals can't really do privatized, in other words, when you're looking at schools, it wouldn't really behoove me to set up a school because the logistics of that and the economics of it would say that it's kind of a dumb idea for an individual. You need a schooling system that can take care of numbers. And so whenever you have districts, that takes care of that. The roads, one person does not own the land that goes through the state of Missouri, so you need those roads that everyone can use. So the state government is to take care of things basically that we can't take care of on our own. The regulations are to keep certain things as far as parameters. It's not there to be a burden on people. We're supposed to be there to help. We're not supposed to be there to hinder. And so whenever you need help, the government should be there to step in and say, like Joplin, horrific accident, it's not something that one person could just go in and clean up. Now, if something happens if I have a flat tire, I don't expect the state to come out and fix it for me. So it's certain levels, and it's, again, taking care of the public and the public need, safety, education, things like that.
Okay, thank you. Next question will stay with you. How do you plan to communicate with your constituents and acknowledge their concerns?
Again, my phone book, so you can contact me at any time. In the district, there are 6 newspapers, which we've already been in contact with. We've been around, tried to get around every portion of the district that we have. It's a big district, I'll say that. It goes all the way from Highway 50 to 44, almost to Eldon on the west, Rosebud to the Franklin County line on the east, so it's a lot of area. With the auction service, we get around quite a bit, and so we see a lot of people. Basically, it's just a matter of being available to people. One is, if anybody has any questions, they can contact the office, they can contact me, they can contact my home. As far as getting out to the public, the newspapers, any other media that somebody would recommend, I'd be happy to do. The only thing is, because you have such a large, or we have such a large district, it's very expensive to put something in at cost into those newspapers. Television is very important because of the area. Again, there's a lot of radio stations. But as far as how we communicate that, if that answers your question, it's basically just being available to everyone.
How do you plan to communicate with your constituents and acknowledge their concerns?
Here we have parts of 7 counties, as Tom said, very diverse. You know, from Cole County to Crawford County, to Gasconade County, to Phelps County. During this campaign, I have attempted to reach groups that have not been usually asked for questions. The Tea Party in Osage County. It's not typical for a Democrat to be at a Tea Party meeting in Osage County. But we've reached out to those groups. There are civic organizations that I belong to. We have contacts there. And naturally, you're going to use the media and work with the press. But I would also institute town hall meetings and gatherings like this and coffees. We would go that extra step. Weekends when you're home, we're going to have pancake breakfasts and ask people to come and talk. County officials, the courthouse, make our rounds to the courthouses, city councils. But the key thing is to actually sit down, in the coffee shops and say, here I am. what can I do to help, or what's your thoughts on this? And that's how I'm hoping to get the communication out and visit with people.
Okay, thank you. And the next question will stay with you. Missouri has done several things, dipping into capital reserves, accepting stimulus funds that have reduced the financial pressure on the state budget. Should these avenues not be available, outline for us, should these avenues not be available, outline for us what you believe the state government's budget, where the state government's might be cut, and tell us if you believe that federal funds should be declined if the federal mandates attached are too burdensome.
Let's go with the last question first. Yes, I think we need to say no once in a while. We have a $24 billion budget. A third of that comes from general revenues, or taxes, taxes and fees. Another third comes from the federal government. Another third comes, another $8 billion comes from dedicated funding from various other agencies, the federal government, state government, and park fees and fees like that. Where we can cut the budget is very simple. Let's look at existing programs and see if they're working or not working. You know, it's very rare that you see a state agency be asked to justify their existence. And I know they do so through the annual budget process, but that's after they spend all the money. Okay, you know, maybe we should say, hey, save some of your budget for the extra projects that you're looking for in the future. We need to do like Harry Truman did when he went to Congress, to the Senate, and look at the various programs. Are they working? If not, why not? If they can be fixed, fix it. If they can't fix it, don't fix it. Point an example. As an example, we have an economic development program. We received $21 million from the feds to administer this economic program throughout state Missouri. These tax credits are something separate that belong with that program. We need to look at these tax credit programs and say, are they meeting the needs of what they were set up for? If not, we need to say no to them. So I think it's time for us to start saying no and live within our means.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, question once again.
Missouri has done several things, dipping into capital reserves, accepting stimulus funds that have reduced the financial pressure on the state budget. Should these avenues not be available, outline for us where you believe the state government's budget might be cut, and tell us if you believe that federal funds should be declined if the federal mandates attached are too burdensome.
Well, I would agree. With a $24 billion budget, $8 billion of that comes from the federal government. So as much as I would like to tell them, take your money, and it just doesn't happen. The budget is, as you know, is state law that the budget be balanced every year. And it is, and it has been. On the other hand, there's a lot of things that you have to decide where should that money best be spent. One, for example, my sister, in fact, heads one of the agencies with government. She has a licensing that, since she came to the head of that, they have an amount that is due per license. That agency is actually directed by a board that is private individuals. They're area businessmen. They are not government employees. Over the years, they have actually reduced the amount that they charge for that license because it's been run with common sense. And so, if government can be run reasonably, we don't really want to cut out, say, the sheriff's departments or safety. You can't do that. It's not really that you're going to get a big chunk any particular one place. It'd be nice to tell the government to keep it, but at this point, it wouldn't be wise for us to do that. On the other hand, if we could increase our economic development, have more business, get more people employed, to where we're saving more money, we will have less dependence on the federal government, and we can say no to certain monies. And so hopefully in the future we can do that.
Okay, thank you. And the last question will stay with you. Missouri's voters in the November general election will be asked to vote on Proposition E, which states, shall Missouri law be amended to prohibit the governor or any state agency from establishing or operating state-based health insurance exchanges unless authorized by a vote of the people or by the legislature? Do you support or oppose Proposition E? And please explain.
Whenever you say that, the first thing that comes to mind is Obamacare. So, whenever I look at that, and any bill that comes along and say, hey, I'm going to force you to do something, are you going to look at me and say, sounds like a great idea? Secondly, I'm going to say it's such a good idea that I'm going to force down your throat that I'm going to exempt myself from it. So, what does it tell you without even looking at that bill whenever a government comes out and says, you have to do this, and we don't have to do it ourselves? But it's a very good thing. One of the questions I would have whenever you get your license or your insurance on your vehicle, why do we have to have an uninsured motorist? It's illegal to drive in the state of Missouri without insurance. The problem is that I see, or one of them, with this bill there's actually more, but people have a wide range of incomes. There are people out there that can afford insurance, and they have it. There are people out there that cannot, and they don't. If they could, they would have it. So instead we say, all right, since you don't, we're going to penalize you, and we're going to charge you a fine. Where are they going to get that money? It's not going to happen. So then they don't have the money for the insurance, but they have to have insurance. So where are they going to get the money to get insurance for those people? It's going to have to come from someone else. And everybody says, let the government pay for it. What you don't realize, if you get a check from the government, it's not the government's money. It's somebody else's money that sent the money into the government because they had to, and then the government distributed it back out. It's not our money. It's your money. You should spend it as wisely as you can. We should be there to help you. It would be nice if we could reduce the burden of insurance, maybe get costs down, maybe work with insurance companies, with doctors. They're individuals too. But if we could reduce the cost, make it affordable, more people would have insurance and we wouldn't have to rely on the government to say, you have to have it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Proposition E deals with health exchanges. And instead of talking around the issue, 71% of our Missourians said no to the affordable health care. And so, as a state representative, it's going to be awful hard for me to go and say, hey, we need to, not listen to the voters and do it. But part of being a leader is also being a teacher. Now, the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, like it or not, said that health exchanges is going to be implemented, and if we don't do it, they're going to do it for us. And right now, the state's going to sit back, and we're going to let the federal government come in and set up these health exchanges. I have fundamental problems about that. The state is, exceeding its authority by not taking that job on themselves and saying we need to manage that system. Someone else is going to come in and manage it for us. Now, the healthcare system has many faults to it. But when you get down to the Medicaid issue, the healthcare issue, it's much more than just what we're seeing on TV. It affects every one of us. But as a state representative, representing the 62nd district, my constituents will vote saying we don't want health care as it is here. So Proposition E, I would support saying it's going to be defeated and that we cannot set these exchanges up unless we have a vote of the people. So therefore, on Proposition E, it's going to be, if I create it before the legislature, it will be defeated. But the same token, we can't give up our right to learn and to educate people on this healthcare issue. It is so great a burden on our economy that we have to address it. Massachusetts did it on the state level. Why can't Missouri? So stay tuned. There's going to be a lot more discussion on this. Answer your question. No on the health exchanges set by states. The voters have a right to decide yes or no on that.
Okay, thank you. If you pass it down to Mr. Russian here. Next set of questions will be for the candidates for U.S. Representative District 8. And you gentlemen, see, you're sitting side by side. You've done very well, so we appreciate that. First question. If elected, how do you plan to communicate with your constituents and acknowledge their concerns?
Well, you'll have field offices throughout the district, and people can always contact those offices. They can come in there personally. All congressional congressmen and senators have people to field information, and all that's reviewed with the senator or the congressman, and then responses are given, and they usually send out by mail. Sometimes there'll be phone calls made, but I would make myself available for people to contact me via through the field offices, via through the email, through the mail, and they can also contact me by phone. As a congressman, you'd be very busy at certain times, so there'd be certain times you couldn't take the calls. But, until my voice mailbox got full, I would be able to ascertain. I think most people that are going to take the time to contact you have a serious concern, and therefore, they're going to want to, the subject matter probably is going to be a pertinent issue that needs to be dealt with, and based on what that is will be determined, and then the response will be determined.
And we live in an age now where communication, there's so many different forms of communication. You have electronic communication, you have telephone, you have old-fashioned letters. You can just shout at a guy running down the street or whatever. There are so many different ways to communicate with people, so I don't see communication with me being an issue if elected. Something I would do different than the incumbent does is that I would announce publicly where I'm going to be and make several public appearances in town halls. That's not done currently by our incumbent, and the proof is that she's not here tonight. I don't believe in form letters. I've written the incumbent several times and received the same form letter back 3 or 4 different times. So, you got to make it more personable. You got to have somewhat of a staff there to help you out in times that you're busy. But in this day and age, I don't see communication being an issue.
Okay, stay with you with this. The federal debt now totals more than $16 trillion, which is over 100% of the GDP and about $140,000 per taxpayer, according to the U.S. Bank blog online. Unfunded liabilities, including Social Security and Medicare, exceed $120 trillion, or over $1 million per taxpayer. What actions would you propose to compel the federal government to balance their budget, as 38 states of the states already do?
I don't think you can compel these guys to balance the budget. It is obvious we are out of money. I don't know what it's going to take. They keep talking about the fiscal cliff that we're going to fall off of, but I'm afraid that's where we're headed. Whether it's a real fiscal cliff or if it's something worse where people are rioting in the streets. I hope it doesn't come to that, but what it's going to take is for people like you. Here you are, you're all here, you're concerned citizens. You realize what is going on. You're not elected congressmen, you're not elected senators, you don't have that direct line to Washington. Tell them about it. That's what we got to do. I don't think there is a political solution for these problems that the politicians have created for us. It is going to take the voice of us to convince these people that this is us. This is our country. We want to be free, and you are preventing us from being free by your spending. I don't understand how you can run up that kind of a bill. There's so much that we could cut. I know they talked about PBS the other night. PBS is a drop in the bucket, man. Currently our military spends more than 16 next countries combined. In the wars, in the Federal Reserve, cut taxes.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, that's why PBS is a flea on a flea on a flea on a dollar. Very small. Going back to what I mentioned earlier about the tax appropriated wars, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in American history, we enacted conflicts with the Afghan and Iraq War, and we borrowed the money to pay for it. In World War I, World War II, Korean War, and the Vietnam War, we appropriated tax revenues to pay for those wars. We did not do that in the Iraq and Afghan conflicts. That's wrong, but that's what was done. Part of the reason where we're at is real simple, and you don't have to agree with it. I'm evidence-based. With my background in education in science and as a physician, I'm evidence-based, so I look what evidence-based means to me and how my thought processes go. But the bottom line is during the Bush years, when we enacted the tax cuts, and by the way, there's only been 2 presidents in the history of our country who never increased income tax. Warren Harding didn't finish his first term. He died of a heart attack. George W. Bush was in for 8 years. Did not increase income taxes at all. That created a deficit of revenue coming into the country when we still had obligations going on. Obligations were for Social Security and Medicare. Obligations were for troops around the world. But those obligations were there. At the same time, their model was if you cut taxes, the economy will grow and offset that. Now, you say, well, Ronald Reagan did. Yeah, he did. But he guided it. He steered it. Ronald Reagan raised taxes 11 times. George Bush didn't raise them any. And when you're steering a car, you have to make adjustments to the steering wheel. And you have to do that in Congress, and you got to do that as the President of the United States as well.
Thank you. The next question stays with you.
Yes, sir.
Do you agree that there should be executive orders which have the force of law, and if not, how could these be thwarted?
I think like any other steps that are taken by government, you have to have a really valid reason for why you would execute an executive order. So for me to say that I don't think executive orders have any purpose, I don't agree with that. I think that there are times that they do. But I think what we have to do is use good, prudent judgment when we do that. When we make decisions, I was asked one time, I was given a question about the Farm Bureau where I stood on hybrid or genetic engineered goods. And I said, well, I'm for it and I'm against it. And they said, how can you be that way? And I said, well, I'm not going to sign a piece of paper that says I'm for any genetic product, especially when they haven't been created yet, when there could be a detriment from it. When there could be mutation, you have a detriment out effect to the public. So I think it depends on what the executive order is dealing with. And hopefully the rationale of the people making that order will make the appropriate decision.
Executive Order number 1 was issued by Abraham Lincoln to lock up his political opponents. So from day one, executive orders have been abused. I think we've got a system in place, checks and balances. Sometimes it doesn't work so well, sometimes it gets messy, and it should be messy. We have too many laws on the books right now. We have millions of laws. We don't know how many laws we have. I think we need to go through the laws, including the executive orders, including the regulations that are in the Federal Register right now, and just start repealing laws as opposed to making laws.
Amen.
Okay, thank you. Stays with you. Joan Emerson was recently quoted in the Houston Herald as saying she would vote to immediately repeal all of the new taxes put in place by Obamacare, and that the rest of the bill should be examined piece by piece. That doesn't sound like she supports an outright appeal of Obamacare. Do you support repealing it? If not, how do you think the new health care law should be changed?
We call it a health care law, and yes, I am in favor of repealing it to answer your question. We call it a health care law, and it's really not a health care law. It is a health insurance law. And that is what it is regulating. It is regulating how insurance companies get paid, how doctors get paid. It does nothing for the quality of health care in this country.
That's right.
And I think that's where we need to focus on, because health care, there's never going to be enough, and it's always going to be expensive. So we need to face that reality. What can we do to make health care more accessible and more affordable? I think there's a few things that we can do. Pretty easy. We can start selling insurance over state lines. That's a given. We can start giving tax deductions to people who have their own health insurance. I think we need to eliminate the FDA. I also disapprove of the federal government's monopoly on medical licensing. I think we need to start competing. I foresee private regulatory agencies competing with the government. And I think that would do a lot to bring our health care costs down. Not so much health insurance. Something is in the ACA that Mr. Romney was apparently in support of was carrying your children up to age 26 on your health insurance. That was a direct concession to the major insurance companies, okay? Let's just get that straight. So, yes, I approve of repealing the ACA.
I was traditionally for public option, and some of my Republican friends said, well, that's not fair to have force the insurance companies to be in competition with the government entity. And understanding public option would give you a choice to participate or not. It wouldn't be a mandated situation. And I looked at them and said, well, DBL, FedEx, and UPS do pretty good against U.S. Postal Service. So that argument really is a new thing. But here's how I feel about the Affordable Health Care Act, knowing what I already told you about that was for public option. And that is that I believe it's the law. I believe if we're going to be true to ourselves, we have to see if we can make it work. If it doesn't work, then you ditch it. But here's the thing with regards to that. I sat at a forum one time, and I talked, and I try to cover things in a pretty civil way, pretty rational way. And the lady was a nice lady. And when she came after me, she's running for a state representative position. Her entire 5 minutes was absolutely slamming the Affordable Health Care Act, and she called it Obamacare. And the first thing whenever I'm around a lot of data flying around, I start taking notes. That's because that's the way I was genetically made as I went through school and studied. But the bottom, I started smiling 45 seconds into her talk. Because, ladies and gentlemen, 90% of everything she said was said about Medicare in the 60s. Now, I've been all over the 8th district, and I haven't found hardly anybody who's having Medicare who doesn't want to have Medicare. And if there's anybody here tonight that's on Medicare that doesn't want Medicare anymore, I'll be glad to talk to you at the end of the meeting at back by the door. But that's what we have to do. We have to try to make it work. And then if it doesn't work, then you have when Roy Blunt says job killing, and they've got a study from Massachusetts that shows that there's no job killing, well, something's not kosher with it. It's not right.
Thank you very much. And the mic will go all the way back down. Our next level of candidate present is for Lieutenant Governor. Thank you, sir. And so your first question. You're elected, and should you replace the governor at some point, for some reason, would you continue your predecessor's programs and agenda, or would you embark on your own?
The best way to explain what we're doing is government, I can make it very simple for you right now. If you understand more than and less than, because the whole 8 years I was in the legislature, we saw government get bigger, more intrusive, and more expensive. And if nobody can figure that one out, then I can't help you. But it's easy, folks. It is easy. It is the easiest. That's how I won the plaque for being the most constitutional legislator. And I had an easy time making decisions on what bills to support because it was just simple. Is it growing government bigger? Is it making it more intrusive? And is it making it more expensive? And how the budget went from $18 billion when I first got elected to $24 billion should make us all raise an eyebrow. And the fact that the governor this year offered a budget that was $1 billion, I say that with a B, $1 billion less than what the Republicans passed should make us all wonder what happened there. Because there's a point, folks, where it's too much and it needs to go on a diet. So when your question is, would I pare back anything? Oh, yes. There are plenty of things that government ought not be doing. And the truth is, you'll never notice the bit of difference whether the lieutenant governor is a Republican or a Democrat. But you're going to see a huge difference if you get somebody in there who's constitutional.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Article 4, Section 10 of the Missouri Constitution states that the Lieutenant Governor shall be ex officio President of the Senate. Would you please explain what you believe this means?
I'd love to, because you know what? There are a lot of things we're not getting right now with our current Lieutenant Governor, and that's called performance. And you know, it also says he shall break the tie. S-H-A-L-L, shall. Now, many of you want an English lesson tonight. I just want to explain, there's a huge difference between shall and may. It's not could, it's not might, it's not if he feels like it. The word shall is compulsory. And had he performed his duties and broken the tie 5 times when he was not there to do so, we would have saved ourselves $7 million in the election last February independent soapbox and a platform, and I intend to use that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next question. By law, the Lieutenant Governor is a member of the Missouri Housing Development Commission. Could you please tell us what this commission does?
Okay, the Housing Commission is an income redistribution program. And if any of you want to know the answer to the question, does it go government bigger or shrink it smaller? I say build your own houses, folks. And if you don't have the money, you go borrow it from your aunts or your relatives or your neighbors. We don't need government funding of reshuffling of our money, because what's really underneath the dirty linen shroud is a huge amount of abuse, waste, and fraud. And I don't have time in 90 seconds to tell you, but it would make your blood boil. Everyone in here, if you knew how much they're spending way more money to build those lousy apartments. Oh, I hope I haven't offended anybody. They're spending more money than what it would cost the private sector. And it should scare all of us, because when you see that kind of shenanigans going on, and I'm the mother of 7 children, I don't take any of the shenanigans. And that's wrong. It's just, frankly, it's immoral what they've done. So yeah, we'll correct that one.
Okay, thank you. And the last question, what do you believe to be the role of state government?
Oh, good. The role of state government is to guarantee our rights. The rights that come from God. We have God-given rights, and government is there to protect them. And if any of you have seen what's happened to the people at Lake of the Ozarks with their property rights, you would be appalled. Because the federal government is coming in, and there's something called a squatter's law. And that is, if you let somebody crouch on your property for 7 years and you don't say anything, you're quiet, you don't shoo him away, you just leave him, then he has to claim your property. And folks, the federal government has been a big bully. And they've been crouching on our state rights for years, and nobody is shooing them out of there. You are going to see a huge difference when you see somebody in that office who's willing to call their bluff and say, folks, this is right, this is wrong, this is the line in the sand. You go on your side, we will call you when we're ready for your help.
Okay, thank you. And we have joined us Jim Higgins, who's a Libertarian candidate for governor. And I'm going to afford you the same opportunity everyone else had. The first thing I'd like for you to do is to take 2 minutes, and the yellow sign that my timekeeper had is a 30-second warning, and the red sign means your time's up, okay? And then the other questions will be 90 seconds. But the first question, tell us what your qualifications are for this position, and why are you running?
Okay, well, I've been a Libertarian about 40 years, about as long as the party's been around. I've worked on petition drives and everything else. I've read economic books, I've seen government programs fail. I've seen the crash of 2008 was blamed on the banks, but actually it was a result of government interference farther back in history. I graduated as a civil engineer, and I worked as a civil engineer for about 5 years, and I work in computers now. So I have an analytical background. I can analyze problems and deal with, listen to people and deal with problems that way. But the reason I'm running is, the major parties have failed us. That they give different speeches, they give good speeches and everything, but when they're elected, there really isn't, like Cynthia? Yeah, I'm sorry. Said that there really isn't any difference. Government grows. Government grows whether you have Democrats in charge or Republicans in charge. So, we need to change that around. We need to reduce some of the spending, reduce some of the control of our lives. We need to have make decisions for ourselves and have control over our own destiny. So, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change the way people view government and the function of government, what we perceive as the valid function of government, that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, thank you. And a short answer, and you can answer for or against if you like on this. Since all elected officials swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, what is your opinion of Missouri's right to carry law?
The right to carry, well, yeah, of course you have a right to carry. You know, you have a right to defend yourself. It goes back to the Second Amendment. People don't like to talk about this, but the reason we have a Second Amendment, the reason the Founding Fathers put the Second Amendment in there was because they had just got done fighting an oppressive government. So the Second Amendment is a last resort against an oppressive government. We're nowhere near that yet, don't get me wrong. We have a free speech, and we have a lot of ways to express political dissent, but that's what the Second Amendment is about, is to as a deterrent against an oppressive government.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Now we'll get into your series of 90-second limit questions. Okay, first question. In October 2011, Missouri's Governor Nixon traveled to Communist China and made a $4.4 billion trade deal was sealed between our state and China as a result. Despite the failure of passage of the Aerotropolis or China Hub legislation, consider the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, which enumerates the powers denied to the states. It says, no state shall, without the consent of Congress, enter into any agreement or compact with a foreign power. Do you think it was constitutional for our governor to sign a trade agreement with China?
No, I don't. First of all, the governor shouldn't be involved with trying to give special favors to any company. The governor is supposed to provide a level playing field, a fair playing field to everybody, so that they can compete. Or anybody, any business can compete, large and small, can compete on an equal basis. So he's playing favorites. If you give money to a specific company, you have to take money away from other sectors of the economy. So the net loss, you can't measure it, but you lose when you pull the capital out of the rest of the economy. You lose jobs. So there's an even though you can point to the China Club and say that okay, I created so many jobs here, but you can't measure how many were lost by pulling capital out of the rest of the economy.
Okay, thank you. Next question. The U.S. Constitution states in Article 6 that the Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, shall be the supreme law of the land. Tell us whether you believe federal law always supersedes state law, why you believe the way you do, and what you believe about a state nullifying federal law, as was done by Wisconsin in the case of the Fugitive Slave Act, and by California in the case of medical marijuana.
Okay, well, if federal law violates your rights, I say the state has the right to nullify that law. The role of government is to protect rights. And so if the federal government steps in and tries to override the protection of rights, we have a right to nullify that.
Thank you. Next question. Last year, the city of Moberly was suddenly saddled with $39 million in debt because of the default of a manufacturer, the Mantech plant, on bond payments for an artificial sweetener plant. When asked about the culpability of the state's Department of Economic Development in the calamity, Governor Nixon replied, "I don't run the Department of Economic Development. The governor appoints the head of the DED. What is your philosophy on economic development by the executive branch?"
Governor shouldn't be involved with trying to, develop economic in certain areas or a certain company. the governor is supposed to protect the rights and leave a fair playing field for everybody so that, free enterprise and the free market can operate. So, no, it shouldn't, be involved with bond issues and things like that.
Okay, thank you. And the last question. This week, a Missouri woman flying from Kansas City to Indiana reported that the TSA screening she was forced to undergo made her feel violated. She had undergone reconstructive surgery after breast cancer, and they cite a web story from KFBS 12. Americans everywhere are complaining about the treatment they are receiving at their flight gates, humiliating and privacy-violating searches, verbal disrespect, even thefts. What is your solution?
Well, 9/11 happened, a long time ago. I don't think we have the threat that we do. I was at the airport, picked up my wife over the weekend, and I got yelled at. I was texting on the phone, and I walked down the end thing, and I got yelled at. So they have a power complex, I think, the TSA agents, but I think they drive overboard. I mean, we have safe airports. Before 9/11, there was a lot of things that fell through the cracks, but that was not because of the TSA, or that wasn't because they didn't inspect people. They had other things that went on. So I think they've gone overboard, and I think they're evading our privacy.
Okay, thank you very much. And those are all the prepared questions that we had. We do have some audience questions, but we are running very close on time. How patient do we want to be tonight?
Very.
That's what I suspected.
The candidates are able to stay for a little bit.
Who's on the feed us, we'll be here.
I'm not the one that lives so far away.
First question will come to the candidates for county commissioner, so if at least one of you will wind up with that. And I am reading questions from the audience, so